Now, last week, whilst sat in a 24 plate Fiat Scudo, a brand new van that was going to a rental fleet, I declared the demise of the milk float and that the bubble had burst. Well, this week, I'm sat in a Fiat Scudo van going to a rental company because the EV bubble has burst. And I'm also sat on the M5 on a Friday afternoon. I never work Fridays for precisely this reason. It's taken me 3 weeks to get through Bristol. And it's like this all the way home. It's just crap, but it's the same every Friday. Anyway, that's not the point. The point is that whilst sat bored shitless, I decided to have a look at the May EV van sales figures, and they made even better reading than I thought. May 2024, here's a lovely pie chart that demonstrates it beautifully. Zoop. As you can see from that beautiful pie chart, the total amount of EV sales in May for vans was 4%. 4. That's it. So I had a look at the previous months. It was 5% in April, 6% in March, no, 7% in March, 5% in February, and 6% in January. So sales are going down in the last 3 months. I mean, sales were never high anyway, but they're going down. So my point is this. I've been driving along all day and I've had the radio on. So you can't help it. You can't escape it. The politics is on and they're talking the same crap that they've always talked. I've already covered it a few times. But here's the interesting thing. EV van sales is a perfect metaphor for the world. And here's why. People are fucked off for being told what they should and shouldn't think, should and shouldn't buy, and should and shouldn't say. And that has borne perfectly with EV vans. You've got to buy an EV van. You've got to buy an EV van. You've got to save the planet. They're shit. I'm not having one. There you go. Doesn't matter. Same in politics. You can't vote Donald Trump. You can't vote Brexit. You can't vote Boris Johnson. All three get in. It's not a coincidence. Because it doesn't matter what you keep telling people. Everyone's got their own mind and everyone can work it out for themselves. And people are doing that. And it's happening more and more. Because everyone's had enough of being told what to do. Particularly when they're being told what to do by people who have no intention of doing it themselves. Oh, you can't fly anymore. Hang on a minute, I'm just going to jump on my private jet and whip off to Davos with all the other billionaires. And when I come back, I'll tell you, you can't go Benidorm. That type of thing. And it's exactly the same with milk floats. You've all got to drive a milk float. You've all got to drive a milk float. But I don't want to drive a milk float. You've got to drive a milk float. I'm telling you, you've got to drive a milk float. I don't want to drive a milk float, so I ain't driving a milk float. I don't want a milk float van, so I ain't driving a milk float van. As a result, nobody's buying milk floats, sales are going through the floor, and everyone's starting to panic. And it's not a coincidence. It's absolutely not a coincidence. And it's the same thing with these bloody politicians. Sunak now, I can't believe I didn't get inside information on that. I would have had a few quid on that. I love a bit of inside information. Apparently, it's illegal to gamble on stuff when you get inside information. That's the only time you win. What a load of bollocks. Still, they're in the shit. Oh, I thought it stalled then. It's all right. You've got all these politicians saying one thing, doing the other, and then expecting you to say one thing and do one thing. And everyone's had enough of it. And then what amazes me is that the media, the fully paid up, what's the word I'm looking for? Propaganda. That's the word. Propaganda of the government on, because that's all they are. They're just propaganda. All the main news channels are just there to tell you what the state want you to hear. They're not there for any other purpose. Forget neutrality, forget all that crap. It ain't happening. They're only there for one purpose, and that's to repeat. And despite all that, look at Mr. Farage. He's getting very little media coverage on the mainstream media, apparently. I don't know. I don't watch the news. Surprisingly, I stopped watching the news many years ago when I worked out that it was a pile of shit. But he ain't getting the coverage, and he wasn't on the leaders' debate last night, despite now polling, and I don't necessarily believe polls either, at 25%. Now, if he's polling at 25%, it's way higher than that. Because Donald Trump was polling way behind Hillary. Boris Johnson wasn't polling that high. Brexit wasn't polling high at all. All three came in. And it's not a coincidence, because it keeps happening. Because people only say, half of them, when they get interviewed by these polling people, say, yeah, oh, who are you going to vote for? And they look at the people that are holding the clipboard and think, I wonder what she wants to hear. Oh, well, I'm not going to say I'm voting Reform. I'm not going to say I'm voting Brexit. Oh, no, I'm voting Remain. Yes, I'm going to vote for Starmer. Oh, I think he's got the best interest of the company. Oh, no, they've got no intention whatsoever of voting that way. They're just saying that. So if everyone that said, 25% of people have said, yeah, I'm voting Reform, how many people are actually voting Reform? Way more than that. Get your money on early doors. 33-1 they are. I fancy a few quid on that. But that's the sideshow, because the main thing is, the whole purpose of me starting this November 2022 was because the government were telling me that by 2030 I had to buy an electric car. I didn't have a choice. They were going to wipe out petrol and diesel. You will buy an electric car. You don't have a choice. We are telling you what you can and can't drive. Everyone says, well, you know, blah, 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 blah. It's for the planet. It's for this. No, that wasn't the point. The point was, I don't like being told what to do by anyone. Never have done. Not since I was a kid. And for the government to tell me what I can and can't drive, but then when they tell you what you can drive turns out to be a pile of shit, then no, I'm not having it. Should be choice. If you want to drive a milk float and spend half your life charging it up and the rest of it worrying about the range, crack on. I mean, I think you're an idiot, but crack on. Doesn't matter. You can do whatever you like, as long as I can drive a V8 or a diesel van, of which I think it's something like 94% of all vans sold were diesel vans. Diesel's going nowhere for the next few years, because everything gets delivered by vans and trucks, and vans and trucks run on diesel. And in this country, we don't have a train network that delivers stuff. We don't have a train network, because half the time it doesn't work. Everything gets delivered by van and truck. You get rid of diesel, no one's getting anything. No supermarkets will have any stock, because it all arrives by diesel truck. Amazon, they've gone over to electric, they're coming back. So your parcel deliveries, diesel. Royal Mail went to electric, coming back, diesel. It's not a coincidence. And this is the point. They told you what you had to do, and everyone said no. And 3 weeks ago, just 3 weeks ago, the media were telling you you had to vote for Starmer because he was the only thing that was going to get into government, and that was it. And people said, no, I don't want it. And now everyone's running around like headless chickens. I heard a politician say the other day that if Reform get any votes at all, it's an affront to democracy. No, mate, it's not. It's called democracy. Getting someone voting for something that you don't want them to vote for isn't an affront, an assault on democracy. That is democracy. Which bit of that don't you get? And this is the world we now live in, where if you don't vote for what they think is right, well, you're either a fascist, a racist, a phobe of some kind. Because if you disagree with the narrative, you're a phobe or an ist. Or can you be a phobist? I suppose you can. Maybe you can be a phobist. But whatever it is, if you disagree with it, you're a phobe or an ist. If you agree with it, oh, you're wonderful. And somehow, when we have a vote, if you vote the wrong way, you're thick, you're racist, you're again, you're a phobe. You're some sort of phobe-ist. You're a phobist. So let's stop calling everyone far right, because apparently, in this world now, if you think, yeah, I don't agree with that, far right, let's call them phobists. I'm a phobist. I'm not a far right, I'm a phobist. I like that. I think I've just invented a new word. I might get on to Susie Dent, see if she'll put it in the dictionary for me. Oh, Jesus. Oh, I think I could turn this round. Let me see if I could turn this round. You can see what I've just seen. Oh, yeah, I can, look. Look. Look at that for a queue. It just goes on and on and on and on. Oh, it's doing my head in. You might notice on the other side, the northbound is going really well. Trust me, it doesn't last. I'm stationary, I'm turning it back round. It doesn't last because on the other side, northbound, the traffic jam goes from Birmingham back to Bristol. Still, at least we're keeping all the cars off the road. How's that working for you, Sunak? Oh no, we need to get people out of cars and onto public transport. Not when it's shit. The worst thing that could ever happen to me on a Friday afternoon is to be stuck in a traffic jam, because I'm going to rant about everything now. And why not? I got nothing better to do. I'm not going to be home before 7 o'clock. Probably. Not even that now. And do you know what? There isn't even any cold beer in the fridge when I get home. So I'll probably finish this video and ring the missus and ask her to do it before she goes out. Stick some beer in the fridge, love. I had some Hawkstone delivered from Mr. Clarkson. My mentor, Mr. Clarkson, supplies me with his beer now to keep me going, so we can keep this ranting about the government and cars going, because there's so few people doing it on telly anymore. There isn't anybody on telly doing this anymore, is there? There's no car shows. I mean, there's Car SOS, but the day they converted a Porsche into an electric, or was it a Jag? Whatever it was, they converted it into a milk float. Stopped watching. I haven't watched an episode since. Used to like that, Tim and Fuzz. They used to do some good builds. I haven't watched that much Wheeler Dealers either. Weirdly, since Mike Brewer paid me a compliment and tweeted me. Sorry, Mike. No offence. Nothing personal. Just haven't been watching much of it. So apart from that, on the fringe shows, and then you got the Grand Tour, which, you know, does one episode a year. So actually, there's nobody doing car shows anymore, which I don't think is a coincidence, because they were probably looking to phase it out, because the last thing they want to do is glorify motoring and freedom. I mean, imagine it. People being able to get in their car and go where they want, when they want, and do what they want without restriction. Yeah, that don't fit the narrative at all, does it? Oh, sped up to 30 mile an hour for a bit here. It won't last. Oh, it's not lasting. Though I can now see the sea. For those of you that know where I am on the M5, I've just come through Bristol, and in front of me is Western Supermud and Burnham-on-Sea. And in the very background, which you can only see on a very clear day, Hinkley Point Nuclear Power Plant. There you go. Owned by the French and the Chinese. But don't let that stop it. We don't even own our own power stations anymore. We don't own our own power stations, but we're going to make everybody use more electric, so that the French and the Chinese get rich. Yeah, it makes perfect sense. Makes perfect sense, doesn't it? Makes you proud to be British. Well, we've sped up a bit. Oh, I think we might be clearing. No, brake lights. So anyway, that was my point. Nobody buying EVs is a metaphor for life and politics and whatever else I've covered in the last 15 minutes. So, as usual, we finish. with the mantra, in conclusion, future my arse,